Look at her feet. Bare, swollen, turned outward. The feet of a woman who has just died. This is the Virgin Mary, the Mother of God, and this painting was made to hang above an altar so the faithful could kneel and pray before it. Instead, the priests who commissioned it took one look and called it obscene, and then they tore it off the wall. To understand why, you have to understand the man who painted it. Michelangelo Merisi, the world knows him as Caravaggio, did not paint saints the way saints were supposed to be painted. No golden light, no serene perfection, no bodies floating free of the earth. He painted holiness using the people he found in the street, laborers, beggars, the poor of Rome, dragged out of the dark by a single hard shaft of light. Where other painters lifted the sacred up into heaven, Caravaggio pulled it down into the room with you. He painted what he could see, and what he could see was that people die. In 1601, a papal lawyer named Laezio Cherubini commissioned an altarpiece for his family chapel in a small Carmelite church in Trastevere, across the river from the heart of Rome. The subject was fixed by centuries of tradition. This was the moment the Virgin leaves the world, and in every version the faithful had ever seen, it is a moment of glory. Her soul rises, angels descend, the heavens open to receive her. It is not death, it is the triumph over death. Caravaggio gave them none of it. Look at what he painted instead. A woman lies stretched on a plank, her body heavy and slack. One arm has fallen off the edge, her belly is swollen, her face is grey. Above her head, there is no burst of light, no choir, only a thread of a halo, so thin you could miss it. Around her, a huddle of men in worn robes weep into their hands, and at her feet, one figure sits doubled over, her back turned to us, her face hidden in her hands. Mary Magdalene, folded in on herself, crushed. It is a pose Caravaggio could not let go of. You find the same broken, hunched grief in his other paintings of the dead. A great red curtain hangs overhead, like the roof of a tomb, and on the floor, near the front, sits a plain copper basin, the kind used to wash a corpse before burial. There is no heaven in this painting. There is only a dead woman in a bare room, and the people who loved her, and that absence was not just plain, it was dangerous. The Church taught that the Virgin was unlike any other mortal, that at the end of her life she was taken up, body and soul, into heaven, spared the ordinary corruption of the grave. That was the whole point of the image the priests expected, proof that death had no hold on her. Caravaggio painted the opposite, a swollen belly, a body already beginning to go. He painted the one woman the faithful believed had escaped decay, as though decay had come for her like anyone else. To the men who commissioned it, that was not a stylistic choice. It brushed against doctrine itself. So they took it down. And here the story does something strange. They commissioned a replacement from a painter named Carlo Saraceni, a safer, gentler death of the Virgin, and they rejected that one too. Only on the third attempt, a version in which Mary does not lie dead at all, but rises into the sky, surrounded by angels, did they finally get the painting they wanted. It took 3 tries to undo what Caravaggio had done once. Then there was the whisper. Around Rome, people began to say that Caravaggio hadn't used a holy model at all, that the woman lying dead, as the Mother of God, had been a prostitute he knew. One early writer sneered that he'd painted some dirty courtesan from the worst quarter of the city. Over the centuries, the rumor grew darker still that the model was a corpse, a woman pulled drowned from the Tiber. That last part is almost certainly a legend, invented long after the fact, and the names later attached to her cannot be proven, but the gossip itself tells you everything about how the painting landed. It was too real. People looked at the Virgin and thought they recognized a real, ordinary, mortal woman, and for a sacred altarpiece, that was unforgivable. There is one more thing you should know about the man holding the brush. Around the very time this painting was changing hands, Caravaggio's own life came apart. In a street fight in Rome, he killed a man and fled the city with a death sentence hanging over him, a sentence that meant anyone who found him was free to cut him down where he stood. The painter, who had shown the world an honest death, was now running from his own. He would never live in Rome again. But rejection is not the same as failure. Because while the priests saw obscenity, other people who understood painting, saw something they could hardly believe. And there was one detail almost no one was allowed to witness. When word spread that the rejected altarpiece was for sale, the painters of Rome demanded to see it before it left the city. And so, for 1 week, and only 1 week, the painting was put on public display, on the condition that no one was permitted to copy it. 7 days, then it was gone. The man who made sure it left was Peter Paul Rubens, then working in Italy, one of the greatest painters alive. Rubens recognized the picture for what it was, and urged his patron, the Duke of Mantua, to buy it. The Duke paid 280 scudi, which means the church that had torn the painting down as obscene turned around and sold it, at a profit. From Mantua, the painting began a journey no altarpiece was ever supposed to take. It passed to the collection of King Charles I of England. After his execution, it was sold again and again, moving through the hands of a wealthy banker, until it entered the collection of Louis XIV, the Sun King of France. The painting the priests could not stand to look at ended up among the most guarded treasures in Europe. Today it hangs in the Louvre, in Paris, on a wall people cross the museum to reach. The feet are still bare. The halo is still almost invisible. There are still no angels. One great art historian looked at it and said it resembled a death in a night shelter. And he did not mean it as an insult. He meant that Caravaggio had done something almost no religious painter had ever dared. He had refused to look away from what death actually is. The priests called it obscene because it did not show them heaven. But maybe that was never the question the painting was asking. Maybe the question was quieter and harder. If the holiest woman who ever lived died the way the rest of us die, barefoot, swollen, mourned in a bare room by people who could not save her, then what, exactly, were they so afraid to see?